Back here today talking the premiere episode of Marvel's What If show. The first episode going up this past week. The fourth Disney Plus show of 2021, and I think it's already off to a good start. I feel like I say that every single time, but definitely unique compared to the other shows that we've gotten this year, and we're going to have a lot to talk about in the coming months. I think there's 8 episodes to come, 9 total this season. It's going to be a lot of fun to discuss, starting with this episode, What If Captain Carter were the first Avenger, so we're going to get into it. First and foremost, Doc, you're back, my man. Chris Mueller from the Twitter machine, BR_Doctor. Happy belated birthday, Chris. What's going on?
Oh, thank you. I really liked this. I'm very happy with how this first episode turned out.
Wednesday went great. I mean, you had your birthday. The first episode drops that day. I mean, you share a birthday with Chris Hemsworth. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, not going to mention that I share one with Hulk Hogan.
I specifically did not mention that. They have a Party Thor episode of this show coming out at some point, I believe, from what I had heard. It would have been cool if that dropped this for on his birthday itself, but I mean, I thought this was a great way to kick off the season. This was probably the best episode to start the season with, especially considering that she's going to be coming back in at least one other episode based off previews, and probably season 2 as well. Phil, you're back as well, my man. Phil Lindsey from the Twitter machine, Phil DL616. Phil, what's going on, dude?
I'm good. Looking forward to talking about animated stuff.
Yeah, I think this is the first animated Marvel superhero thing we've actually discussed at all. I mean, Chris, obviously you and I broke down all the movies last year. The three of us have talked about all the shows they've done so far. We talked about Suicide Squad the other day. Cheap plug for that. Bruce joining us for that, which was great. But yeah, no, this was a very, very good episode to start the season with. And let's just get right into it. Again, like I said, what if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? It's been known for a while that this would be the first episode. And I was curious to kind of how it would look, and I think the animation style itself was great, first and foremost. But like, how long would the episodes be? How much detail would they really go into it with? Basically, this was the first Captain America movie, the first Avenger, just with the roles reversed with Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers, and it turned out to be very, very interesting and obviously impacting things towards the end of the episode as well. So, Chris, what were your initial thoughts on this episode and how it kind of set the stage for what's to come with this What If show?
Well, I really liked it. I was impressed that they got so many people to return as their characters. Mm-hmm. Like, you actually have Neil McDonough as Dum Dum Dugan for 5 lines. Stanley Tucci as Dr. Erskine for like 30 seconds. It was actually Jeremy Renner who had the one line at the end as Hawkeye.
Seriously, that was him?
Yeah. The only person who didn't play themselves was Steve Rogers. It's some guy named Josh Keaton.
It wasn't Hugo Weaving either.
Yeah.
Because, of course, he hates being Red Skull.
Ross Marquand from The Walking Dead, who played him in Endgame, also played him here.
So
he's a noted like impressionist, I guess. He does a lot of impressions of other actors. So
you mentioned it right there, Phil, with Hugo Weaving. Can you kind of elaborate on that? Because I was always curious why he never came back to do it for the movies and why he didn't do it here. Like, does he absolutely hate playing the character of Red Skull?
I'm not sure if it's that he doesn't like the character. I think he didn't like all of the makeup and prosthetics work that he had to do. Don't quote me on it. I think I remember reading that.
And then, I guess, but do you think they were probably still on good terms enough with the guy? I mean, you mentioned his name just there, Chris, the guy who plays Red Skull now. I mean, he just did it a couple of years ago, but that's probably why they just used him for this, right? Because Hugo, if they brought him in, he would have just had to do the voice.
Yeah, it was all CGI in Endgame.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so Ross just had to, if he was even on set for Endgame, I'd be surprised. Like, he probably just recorded this whole thing from a voiceover booth and then again for this.
And then even with Steve, though, the guy that, what was his name, Chris, that you mentioned? The guy that did Captain America on this episode?
Josh Keaton. Here, I'm going to look up and see if he's been in anything else recognizable.
I didn't recognize his voice.
Josh Keaton, wasn't he Spider-Man?
Was he really?
I think he voiced Spider-Man for either Spectacular Spider-Man.
It says he actually did the voice of Harry Osborn in the Spider-Man video game.
Oh, shit.
And then he was in the new Voltron series, Metal Gear Solid, Young Hercules. He's done a lot of voiceover work, it looks like.
He sounded a lot like Chris Evans, too. I honestly wasn't sure going in whether that was him or not.
Oh, yeah, in the Spider-Man series from 2017, he was Norman Osborn and John Jameson. And then it looks like he's done like some episodes of Avengers Assemble as Ant-Man. Yeah, wow, he's got a really big filmography, actually. Like, Jesus Christ.
That's crazy.
He's been appearing in cartoons for years, apparently. I can't believe I've never heard of this guy.
They got most...
Yeah. Right, the Spectacular Spider-Man. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's weird.
Yeah, he did a great job, like, mimicking Evan's kind of tone.
Yeah.
I thought.
Honestly, I think the voice fit him better than Chris Evans did when he, at least before he underwent the transformation in the movie. Because his voice never fit the CGI underdeveloped body from that first movie, I thought.
Yeah, his voice is a little too deep for such a skinny guy like that, but... You know, whatever.
It's not a big deal. I just thought it was funny. But yeah, I thought he did a great job here. And honestly, like I said, I did not know that was him, or that it wasn't him, rather, when I first saw this episode. I think they have like at least 90% of the people on this show, not just this episode, but just in general, are going to be reprising their roles. I saw Batista say last week that he wasn't asked to do it, which was weird, or I think he was.
Yeah, and then one of the producers tweeted out that that's like a communication failure along the way. That, like, he should have been contacted and just wasn't. Yeah,
it was just weird. But other than that, though, I think most of the people are coming back. Robert Downey Jr. is not coming back for the show, is he?
I don't believe so. And there's a couple other people that they had mentioned won't be playing their parts as well. That's why I was so surprised to see some of these people who actually did play their parts. Like, they actually got Dominic Cooper to come back and voice that version of Howard Stark.
Yeah, and Zola, too. I mean, these people we haven't seen in the movies in several years, so I thought that was impressive.
Bradley Whitford was in the original movie for, like, one scene. He returned to play his character because they just blew up Tommy Lee Jones's character.
Yeah, like within 2 seconds, yeah. Yeah, that was funny. But, I mean, yeah, I thought the fact they got so many people back, obviously they got Peggy Carter back, that was a given, but I thought that was cool, and going forward we have that to look forward to. Phil, what were your initial thoughts on the episode and kind of how it set the stage for what's coming with this What If show?
I was a big fan of the Agent Carter show, so I was looking forward to getting something else with Peggy in it, and this definitely didn't disappoint. It has a lot of the same themes as the Agent Carter show, albeit in a different way, but I really like Haley in a role, and I think they should use her more.
So what they did on this episode, or at least with the show in general, is going to be canon to a certain extent, right? Especially with all the multiverse shit now, but that Agent Carter show is not. Is that accurate?
Wait. Agent Carter's not canon?
That's what I'm asking. Is it canon or is it not canon? I don't know.
I think it is, because some of the stuff referenced here, it's tied to Agent Carter, like the
it's like more canon than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is at this point.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it's not canon, because
they had Jarvis from that show in Endgame.
Oh right, yeah.
Jarvis is in there. They make ties to the Red Room in the Agent Carter show.
Yeah, Agent Carter is probably still considered canon, especially because it didn't do anything with any characters they were going to use in the future, where they'd have to just like discount what happened there. Like pretty much those characters, except for the ones from the Captain America movie that reappeared, like Dominic Cooper, most of those characters were like original creations for the show. So yeah, that show's probably still plenty in canon, probably more so than even the Inhumans.
People still talk about Inhumans. I haven't heard anybody mention that show since it premiered.
No, I mean, I've even heard rumors that Chloe Bennett might be brought back as like the soul Inhuman. Yeah.
I never understood why at least Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter weren't. They didn't talk about it in the Marvel main movie universe more than they did, because I mean, clearly, like, it ties more directly to the movies than anything else.
Yeah, it was always a weird choice to me, too. Like, the closest they even come to referencing it is when Fury just shows up out of the blue with that helicarrier in Ultron, and he's like, had some friends dig this thing out of mothballs for me. And there's a whole storyline in like season 2, I think, of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that it's Coulson who's getting that helicarrier ready for him.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And like that's it. That's the closest thing to a reference. But there are possibilities. There's all these like rumors and reports that they want to bring Clark Gregg back in some shape or form. So whether or not they choose to use anything that happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or just ignore that and be like, no, this is just the original Coulson. Because spoilers, Graham, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson gets replaced at some point.
I think I've made up my mind at this point. I probably won't watch the show. I think I would just rather watch something else before I watch that.
I'd honestly say everything in the first season is worth watching, in my opinion.
Okay.
Just because of the way it ties in so nicely to Captain America Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, because it came out like the same day or week or whatever that the movie was released, right, at the time?
Well, like 2 of the last 4 episodes deal directly with the events of that movie and happen like at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, beyond that, like I really enjoyed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for most of its run, but it's definitely not a show you need to watch because nothing from that show is going to be used in the MCU.
No.
I think if you want to watch any Marvel show that's out there, it's either Daredevil or Agent Carter, in my opinion. Like that's, to me, I think they're not, I wouldn't say that you're missing anything if you don't watch them, but I think those are the better shows.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to watch Daredevil all the way through, you sort of have to throw the season of Defenders in there, too. Otherwise, you go from season 2 to season 3 being like, wait, what the hell happened to Matt?
And they're all on Netflix still, right?
Yeah, they'll be on Netflix forever because Netflix made them.
Oh, okay. So is Agent Carter really like the only canon show in the MCU aside from like these new ones?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's
the only one from the ABC era, anyway. Like,
yeah.
You sure they're just ignoring Inhumans? They may even try to use some of those characters in different ways down the line, maybe with different actors.
Mm-hmm.
But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like, they used such weird characters from the comics that they don't really run the risk of needing to explain away anything. Like, this character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is different from this version we're going to use in this movie. Like, nobody's going to care.
Yeah. I'm curious how they're going to handle the Inhuman stuff with Miss Marvel, because Miss Marvel is an Inhuman.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they try and change her origin at all. Like, are they going to retcon Scarlet Witch as a mutant once they bring mutants in? I mean, they could just change it and be like, oh, she was, doused with a chemical.
Yeah. I think they already changed Wanda and Pietro's origins in a comic so that they're technically not mutants anymore.
It's weird. I mean, like, there's probably a few different versions of those characters floating around at any given time anyway, because, there's... Do they even still run the Ultimates line?
No, it's gone.
Yeah, they just combined some of those characters into the main universe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, at this point, I don't mind if they change little things about people's abilities, because certain things are just better to change because so many people had similar origins back then. Like, you can only do so many superheroes got their powers through radiation stories. So, like, if they change her from an Inhuman to, like, oh, she's half alien, I don't care. But there will be some people who will make a big deal out of it because, this doesn't match the exact thing that I read, so I'm angry.
Yeah, of course.
So with her as Agent Carter, or rather as Captain Carter on this episode, kind of looking more on a broader scale here. Do you guys want to see her brought back? And I mean, obviously in more seasons she'll probably be used, but do you think if the character is so well received, they might actually use this version of her in the MCU at some point, if not in just a small role?
I could see her making another cameo at some point. I don't know if it'll be like in a main role where she's in the suit. But I could see her making a cameo again for sure.
Now, they've already had these producers for this show out giving interviews, and a couple of them have said, like, oh, you know, Marvel has some ideas that they might want to spin off, like, whole cartoons based off of some of the versions of the characters we're introducing in What If. And a few of the characters may even end up appearing in live action because we're doing the multiverse stuff. So, of course, that got everybody speculating right away about Peggy Carter. Haley Atwell is 38 or 39. Like, she's still in great shape. She could very easily come back and play this version of the character if she wanted to, I believe. Whether Marvel would ever do that for more than a 5-second, quick cameo is the question. But I would love to see this version of the character brought back again. I thought there was a little more humor thrown into the cartoon version. Like, she was just having so much fun going out there flipping trucks and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoyed seeing a little bit of a humorous side brought into that story. And it happened in more than one place, too. Like, when Howard shows up outside the window, he's like, hey, Bucky stole a Jeep, let's go. And he's like, wait, you guys are about to make out? No, go ahead, continue. Just pretend like I'm not here. Like, there's these little moments of levity throughout the show that they didn't really have as much of in the original Captain America movie, because it's a live-action movie about World War II.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
It was fun to see that because animation allows you to sort of treat things a little more humorously than live action does and get away with it.
I think the funniest joke that I saw was the joke between her and Bucky when she saved him on a train.
Oh, right, with the arm thing, right?
Oh, he was like, he almost ripped her arm off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also really liked the fact that Howard is so uncreative with some of his inventions. They're like, here's the most rare metal on the planet. I'm going to turn it into a Frisbee. Okay, here's this cube. It's the most powerful power source on the planet. Suit of armor. Let's do that. Like, come on. Like, the Red Skull was making an entire assembly line of weapons based off the power from the Tesseract, and you just stick it into a suit of armor.
Was his suit of armor, do you think, supposed to be a nod to, like, the future Iron Man with his son, kind of making what he did in the first Iron Man movie?
Sure.
I figured that. Yeah. I figured that was intentional.
It looked very similar to the Mark I armor, just in general shape and design.
It looked like the Ironmonger suit from that movie.
Which was the Mark I armor before he got his hands on it.
There you go. That makes sense.
Like the one he wears out of the cave.
Yeah.
And then Bridges has it like reassembled and put together and changed. Yeah, that's basically the Mark I armor. And this looked very much like that, just painted green.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And I thought for a second that Steve died when he got shot. I'm like, are they really killing him off in the first 5 seconds of this episode? I was shocked about that.
Ooh, but, that would have been gutsy.
That would have been very gutsy. I was like, what the fuck?
I love how when they're doing the intro on the show and the Watcher's kind of giving his little narration, the small decision of her deciding to stay in the room instead of going into the booth is what sets everything in motion.
I know, it was like the smallest thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually really liked that. I was like, that kind of gives credence to the fact that they can make it anything that changes the events of the entire movie.
Yeah.
So some of these changes are going to be huge. What's his face? The Ravager guy, Yondu. In Chadwick's episode, he's going to take him instead of Peter Quill. That's a major change. That's not as simple as standing in a different room at a specific moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see where some of these things lead.
Yeah, she got Tommy Lee Jones's character killed by her actions. That was all her fault, apparently. Otherwise, he would have lived.
I guess. But, I mean, that guy, like, why did he choose to set the bomb off earlier than he would have normally? Because originally nothing happened until Steve had already gone through the transformation.
Well, because I think he set it off. So they went up. Why did they stay in the room with her? Because she chose to stay down there. Why did everyone else choose to be with her as opposed to going upstairs?
I don't know. Maybe
that was what confused me.
Some of those people may have stayed in the room during the original movie anyway.
Yeah. The thing I noticed is the other part that was different is in the movie, her and Steve don't have that conversation before he goes down to get in the machine. She just looks at him, and then he goes down and gets in the machine, and he stays in the booth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
did you guys think when the train blew up, like, oh, she saved Bucky, and now the Russians are going to have Steve. He's going to be the Winter Soldier for her in the future. And then they didn't go that route. And I'm like, huh.
No. Well, yeah, no, they just show him in the fucking suit, and then he falls out of it, and he's totally fine. I'm thinking, oh, there's going to be after effects, like they tested on him, and he just doesn't know it. Yeah, nope. It's just, there's at least like 3 different points in this episode where you think he's dead or something happens to him, and like literally nothing happens. It's just like 3 swerves in a row. But yeah, so does this mean that there's no Winter Soldier in this version of the MCU?
There could be. It might just not be Steve or Bucky. It could be someone else.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're bringing the character back of Captain Carter, I guess that could be the season 2 episode, right?
Well, I heard a theory being floated around that the final episode of this season might actually bring all these weird versions of these characters together for something.
It has to. I mean, that would make sense, like an Avengers type episode, because like I had said, there was an episode, or a preview rather, for one of the upcoming episodes with Doctor Strange, and you see Captain Carter in the episode. Not just Peggy Carter, but her in the Captain Carter suit. So that would make sense if that's the case.
Yeah, see, if you go to IMDb, a lot of the episodes don't even have descriptions available yet, and the final one is one of those.
Yeah. There's got to be a reason for that. We know the next couple. I know the T'Challa one, I think, is the next one. The one that you had mentioned, Chris. And then I think the third one was revealed, and maybe the fourth. I know the Party Thor one, whatever the hell that's supposed to be, was the fourth one.
One of them is the Zombies episode.
Yep, yeah. And Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, too, right? Isn't Spider-Man like Doctor Strange or something like that?
I don't know.
They've released the action figure for that one. So,
cool.
Yeah, they released some Lego sets I saw, too, based on these upcoming episodes, and I'm like, they need to stop doing that so early, because that ends up spoiling shit sometimes.
Hey, Star Wars had the right idea with the fucking Baby Yoda shit. I'm surprised they're not doing that with Marvel.
They spoiled the reveal of some character in one of the Marvel movies through a Lego set on accident. Because they included, like, one of the little Lego guys and, like, named the guy something, and then everybody's like, oh my god, that confirms that so-and-so is in this movie, and then when they showed up, nobody was surprised.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was specifically. It I want to say it was one of the movies around Phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
If anyone's going to be guilty of that, it would be Disney, because they have merchandising up the friggin' asshole with this shit. But, hopefully they don't spoil too much, if anything, from the upcoming episodes with stuff like that.
Like, I'm going to be honest, I hate that we already got spoiled on Abomination and Wong.
I agree. Yeah.
Both appearing in, like, that would have been awesome if those cameos came out of nowhere. Like,
that's the trailer problem, yeah.
Shit.
That's an issue with the trailer, I think.
And really, like, that's why more directors need to take control over their trailers. Because this goes as far back as, like, the 80s and 90s. When Terminator 2 came out, James Cameron went fucking nuclear because they revealed in the trailer that Schwarzenegger's character was a good guy this time around. And if you go back and rewatch that movie, for the first 15 minutes or so, you do not know that Schwarzenegger is the good guy.
Oh, wow.
Until they're in the hallway at the mall, and he tells John to duck so he can shoot the T-1000 for the first time. You have no clue that he's there to protect him. The whole movie is set up for that to be a surprise reveal. And the trailer just ruins it by, like, if you go back and watch the trailer, the announcers are literally like, he's back, but this time he's a good guy. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, I see why he was so mad.
Yeah. They just ruin shit.
Yeah, they need to stop doing that.
I mean, they do it when they want to. Like, they clearly filmed fake stuff for the Avengers trailer for Endgame that is not in the movie.
Yeah.
And they've done it other times where they filmed stuff as a red herring. So, I don't know. They do it when they feel like it, I guess.
Yeah. It depends on what it is, but it's definitely still happening now.
Like with Star Wars, they film like multiple endings and then don't tell the actors which ending is the real one.
Yeah, it happens a lot, right?
Well, like, apparently the director of Thor: The Dark World recently went on record being like, yeah, there's an original cut of the movie where, like, Loki lives throughout the whole thing and it ends differently. People are like, well, now we want the Dark World cut. And it's like,
no, we don't.
We don't need it and we don't want it.
Bad enough people are asking for the Ayer cut of the original Suicide Squad. Like, I'm sorry. David Ayer's just not my kind of filmmaker. Like, nothing he's made has ever really been super good to me. And, like, especially Bright. That was ridiculous. And I don't think an Ayer cut of that movie is going to be any better. Like, maybe the soundtrack will be a little bit better, like he said, but I don't care.
Yeah, no thanks.
Like, we need to stop rehashing these old movies and just focus on what they can do in the future. Like, we have a guaranteed Aquaman sequel. We have Black Adam. We have a Shazam 2. We've got a new version of the Suicide Squad that most people seem to like. Like, even the Snyder fans don't seem to be hating on it that much.
Yeah. There's a lot to focus on.
Even David Ayer came out and was just like, I loved it.
It's good that he showed his support for it. Not a lot of people, I don't think, would do that.
Well, I mean, James Gunn has never trashed his version of it.
No, yeah. James Gunn is... I feel like he's the exception when it comes to a lot of these people. He seems like a genuinely good guy.
Yeah, I mean, he pissed a few people off when he was like, oh, Scorsese was just looking for attention with those Marvel comments.
He was, though. He was. I mean,
I don't know if he was looking for attention. I don't think Scorsese needs to look for attention. It's just, he has a very old school view of filmmaking. So when something is, like, very reliant on special effects, he's probably not that interested in it, which I understand, but I also am not interested in him telling me another story about the mafia. Like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, the only reason why I said that it seems like he did is because if you're going to go after, like, the biggest franchise in the world right now, and you're going to, put quotes out about it, like, there's no way you don't know that that's going to blow up and become what it did and get you recognition on your movie that so happens to not be coming to theaters. It's going to Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Scorsese was going to be involved with Joker originally. I think he was going to produce it. And then he dropped out, like, really early in the process and was just like, just comic book movies aren't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember who ended up taking over, but, that movie ended up being compared to a lot of Scorsese films.
It was a great movie.
Did it?
Yeah, I think people were comparing it mostly to, what was it, Taxi Driver?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can see the comparisons to Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that comparison. Joker was a great movie. I mean, that was before we started doing the MCU stuff, right, Chris? So that's why we never really discussed that? Because I feel like we would have when it came out.
Yeah, I personally didn't care for Joker too much.
Really?
I mean, it was okay, but it's one of those movies where I'm like, this is a good movie that didn't need to be about that character. Like, you could have just made him anybody and told the same story and it would have been interesting. The fact that it's the Joker means there's certain details you have to include, and when you don't, it just doesn't feel like that character to me.
I agree. Do you think if they changed his name and it didn't have any comic, like the whole Bruce Wayne thing I saw people
Yeah,
didn't
if it wasn't related to DC at all,
Yeah.
it would have been a great movie.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Isn't he not the real Joker too? Didn't I hear a rumor that the second movie is going to have the actual real Joker in it?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. That if they do pull a swerve like that, I think that would be even worse. Because then it's like, then they're relenting and being like, okay, well, yeah, we made some mistakes and we're going to fix it. It's like, no, stick to your guns or don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Or don't even make a second movie.
If they do make a sequel to it, which I'm pretty sure they will, but you never know with these things. I really hope they don't try and like, oh, we're going to jump forward 15 years and tell the story of his first encounter with Batman. It's like, just keep it its own separate thing for now. Like, just let Pattinson have his time as Batman.
Mm-hmm. And that's due out next year, isn't it? We talked about that last time, but I'm not sure if we talked about that on the air, though. They've been putting out the same trailer for like a year now.
Yeah, they really are. Like, I'm not even sure if they're done filming it yet because they got so much stuff pushed back due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
They may still have work to do on it. I have no clue, but yeah, I have hopes for it. Like, it's going to tell the story of the Long Halloween, I think is what the story is called in the comics.
Okay.
Which, it's an interesting story to start Batman with because it includes so many characters that you have to introduce all at once.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not impossible to do that, as we've seen with movies like Guardians and Suicide Squad and whatnot. So I have hopes for it. Like, I think Pattinson could be a good Batman.
He seems like, from the trailer, he seems like he's going to fit the role pretty well. I mean, I was skeptical as anyone when I first saw that he was casted for it, but I think he could do well in it.
I'm more concerned over how his portrayal of Bruce Wayne will be, because I think anyone who's capable of doing a deep voice can put on a cowl and be Batman.
Mm-hmm.
It's whether or not you can be a convincing Bruce Wayne, which is two different people, really. It's the public persona of the playboy billionaire CEO, and then there's the real Bruce Wayne, who's the tortured emo, I need to avenge my parents, but I'm not going to kill anybody guy.
Yeah, we'll see. We haven't seen, they haven't shown any of Bruce Wayne or him as Bruce Wayne in the trailer, right? Maybe a little bit?
There's like one scene where a car drives through, I believe, a train station, and he like tackles somebody out of the way, and then somebody with like a vest bomb gets out of the car, and the sign says like Batman or something on his chest. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a while since I watched the trailer.
Yeah, I know what scene you're talking about, yeah. But he was Bruce Wayne in that scene, though? Before the car came in?
He's just in a suit.
Yeah, he was already there, yeah.
And it looks like it's broad daylight, and Batman doesn't really do daytime stuff. Unless it's the Joel Schumacher movies, then sometimes he does.
No, that would make sense, though. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of stuff coming up, especially with that. I don't know when it's supposed to be due out exactly, but I just know when I watched the trailer before I watched Suicide Squad, it just said 2022. So it's at least not for another 4 or 5 months. But another thing I wanted to ask you guys from this episode, too, was at the end there, obviously, with the monster coming out of the fucking portal that Red Skull put up and whatever. Any idea what that was supposed to be or what they wanted it to be? Because they gave it no name.
It looked like Shuma Gorath to me, because it was green and it had like the tentacles. We just didn't see the eyeball in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard that theory. I had also heard the theory floating around today that it's actually Hive from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I mean, yeah, that would make sense because of the connection to Hydra.
And then also one of the theories that I saw thrown out was, what if it's one of the monsters from the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy 2? Remember that big tentacle monster they were fighting?
Yeah. It could be Hive. It just looked like Shuma Gorath to me. That's what it looked.
It also could just be like just a random squid monster. Like, there is no deeper meaning to it. It's just Hydra thought they were bringing this being to help them, and it ends up just killing Red Skull in 5 seconds, which I thought was hilarious. Mm-hmm. I laughed so hard when he just crushes Red Skull.
Yeah, I think it's the yell that he threw out when it happened that made it funny.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I could see it being just like some random tentacle monster, unless it's like the tentacle monster from Watchmen, and this is like Marvel to DC confirmed multiverse.
Oh,
I was
God.
I was kind of intrigued by the fact that like her pushing through that ended up just pushing her forward to the future when the Avengers are kind of starting to form.
Yeah.
Because if they do plan on doing different series of this, like I would totally be down with an Earth 2 Avengers cartoon where it's all these different versions of the characters. Like, yeah, give me Tony Stark as the Sorcerer Supreme. Fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, having her and then possibly bringing her back. Like, I know they've done like Exiles books where there's like a team that like travels around the multiverse and doing certain things. Like, I'd be for Exiles team led by her if they want to do that as a spinoff as well.
Yeah, I mean, if they brought her into live action, yes, that would be awesome. I don't see it happening, but I think that if they were going to base like, oh, let's do a whole season of one of these what if characters, hers would make the most sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially if you set it in the modern day and you can have her running around with all these either alternate or similar versions of the Avengers. Like Hawkeye and Nick Fury looked like the exact same guys we know. So it doesn't look like history was altered too much in the long run by what she did, but they haven't really told us yet. I was hoping there would be some kind of sequence after the credits, and there wasn't. I was a little disappointed.
Well, do you think they might be saving that for a potential second episode with her in the second season? I mean, like you said, it probably will follow her in modern day, her being a part of the Avengers. And I mean, how do you think that could change things, especially with the dynamic that Steve had with Tony when they were on the same team, and that's what led to Civil War and that whole thing. So how different would that be, you think?
Oh God, they'd probably try to turn it into a romance.
You think so?
I mean, dude, they had Loki hook up with Loki. I mean,
I guess at this point, nothing's out of the realm, yeah.
At this point, they're probably just sitting in a room like, all right, what ships are the fans going to come up with? Let's try and beat them to the punch. And so, yeah, if you have, hot, muscular Peggy Carter with Playboy Tony, he's going to be hitting on her left and right.
Yeah, that's true. Does Pepper not factor into that equation at all?
I guess it depends on whether Pepper even exists in this universe. You never know what little ripples change shit in this, but yeah, I don't know. If they're planning more like animated series, I'm all for it because for one, the animation style they used in this, I really like this. I think it's called cell shading.
Okay.
Where it kind of makes 3D animation look more two-dimensional, so you get this weird contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it looked great, especially in the action scenes. Like when she's throwing that shield around and beating guys up, like it looked good. It kind of sounded pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Like the noises that they were using were perfect. So I'd be totally down for more Marvel animation, either in this style or in other styles. Like maybe they'll experiment and do one like anime style. They'll do one like.
It could.
Hell, maybe they could do a comedy just full on Simpsons style.
I mean, now that they own it, they can do that, right? Did with Disney?
Yeah, they had that. They had that Loki short just recently where Loki was interacting with the Simpsons. Did you guys see that?
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, they released it on Disney Plus like the same day. I think is the Loki premiere or the finale. I can't remember which, but it's like 3 minutes long.
Is it just like it's its own thing, like a little bit or something?
Yeah, they've been doing that a lot lately. Like they had a Star Wars crossover with Maggie.
Maggie? What's Maggie?
Maggie, the Simpsons baby.
Oh, the character. I thought you meant like its own show or something.
No, yeah, like a bunch of the little shorts that they've been making specifically for Disney Plus have revolved around Maggie because she doesn't speak.
Oh, okay.
And so most of the shorts are dialogue free, but this one with Loki actually had him speaking, and I think a couple of the other characters too.
No, that's pretty cool.
It's like he shows up and hangs out with Bart for a little while, and then somehow he ends up taking Bart's place. and like just enjoys having a family.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
I don't
know
know.
They were doing that type of stuff.
I don't
That's
know.
cool.
But yeah, going back to What If, I also thought they did a good job with Uatu, like not telling us very much about him, but making it so we understand the role his character plays right away.
Yeah, and I'm glad they didn't have him narrate the entire episode. Like, we just heard him at the beginning and then at the end. Right? Or am I wrong about that? Did we hear him at all in the middle? Because I thought we didn't. I'm glad that they didn't, if so.
I think you're right. I think it is just the beginning narration and then the end, and it'll probably be like that for most of it. But, you know, Jeffrey Wright has one of those great narration voices, so he was a good choice for that.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job.
Yeah. I'm glad that they're using Uatu in an interesting way. He was in Guardians 2, right?
I mean, did they define that Uatu was one of them? Because there was like 4 Watchers there.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm glad they're using him for something. I thought it was funny that he was like, "We never interfere," and I was thinking in the comics, you've interfered quite a few times.
You interfere all the time. Like his first appearance, he shows up and is like, "Hey, I know you guys need some help with." I think it's like literally against Thanos, isn't it?
Oh wow.
Like,
I don't remember his first appearance.
I saw some YouTube video making fun of it, like where they were just like, "Yeah, Uatu, you don't interfere except for the 2,000 examples we have here of when you did." It was like literally his first issue, the first appearance ever. He shows up and is like, "I am the Watcher. I'm not supposed to interfere, but this is what you guys need to do."
Yeah, I thought his role. Do you think he's going to get involved at all, or do you think by the fact that he said that he probably won't get involved in the show whatsoever going forward?
I don't know. I actually think, because one of the persistent rumors is that in the Multiverse of Madness movie, we're actually going to get appearances by some of these characters, even if it's just a quick flash.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the other rumor is, what if Jeffrey Wright's Watcher actually appears in live action and talks to Doctor Strange or something?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
But these aren't, like, rumors based on any kind of insider news. It's just people speculating.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, it would be cool if they used Uatu even for a moment in live action and actually had Jeffrey Wright come in and put on a big prosthetic head and play him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if anything from the show ties to the movies in any way. I have to assume, like, they made a lot of really interesting nods to either Captain Britain comics or some stuff with the Exile. So I have to assume they're going to do something else with Peg. Like, I mean, even the fact that she used the sword towards the end of the episode, like, that's a big tie to Captain Britain.
Oh, yeah, that was so awesome, too. Like, just her wielding the sword and shield. It's like, that is such a British image.
Yeah.
The knight with the shield and the sword. But yeah, doesn't Captain Britain, even though it's like, she's not really Captain Britain, she's Captain Carter, right?
Right.
The Captain Britain from the comics, isn't it Excalibur that he actually uses sometimes?
Yeah, I think he gets his powers from something related to Excalibur, if I remember correctly.
It's something magical, yeah. He wasn't
magical.
He wasn't a super soldier.
Right. Yeah, so I think it's
really
cool
hope they bring Captain Britain in at some point. Like, that would be such a good character to use in season 2 of Falcon and Winter Soldier if they do ever make another one. Like, I know they're going to make a Cap 4, but I also feel like it'd be cool to get another season with those characters, and Captain Britain would be perfect to use for that. Like, go over to England, this is your S.H.I.E.L.D. contact, he's this guy we know, he can do some weird shit.
Yeah, I would love to see, like, either Captain Britain or, like, some of the MI-15 stuff. I think that would be cool to see.
I don't know. We might as well talk about this. Did you guys see the image that got leaked of the Moon Knight costume?
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys, but I saw that earlier.
I was wondering what they were going to do for a live-action costume, and it looks decent.
Yeah, from what it looks like they're, like, relying on, like, it looks like there's wraps, which makes sense because Moon Knight's kind of like an
Egyptian god, yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense in some ways.
I was going to say, I don't know much
think
about the character, so I can't really form an opinion, but I thought it looked decent, though, like you said.
A lot of people call him Marvel's Batman, which I don't really like that comparison because
it's not in that comparison.
The characters themselves are very different. Like Moon Knight actually has powers. Just because he operates at night and wears a cape and one of his multiple personalities is a billionaire. I'm curious if they're actually going to keep the whole multiple personality thing as part of the character.
Yeah, I'd assume they will because it's such a big part of his backstory.
But I think that would be so hard to translate live action, where they might reduce the role of the multiple personalities in like his overall life. I don't know. Then again, these Marvel shows have consistently surprised me with the lengths that they're willing to go to. Like, Falcon and Winter Soldier was so much more culturally relevant than we expected it to be. WandaVision was so much more unique. Like, I hope Moon Knight does surprise me and they actually go in depth with the character and make him interesting. And the fact that Ethan Hawke is playing the villain makes me happy because I've always liked Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, speaking of like them making things closer to the comic, did you guys notice that they just outright told us that Hydra are Nazis? They didn't do that in the movie. They outright said they're Nazis here.
So in the another thing,
I mean, in the movie they kind of make that connection, right? They're like, he's.
Yeah, it was vague though. It wasn't like overt.
And they didn't show the logo either when they were in the air on the ships. I mean, I assume they did that on purpose, right? With the when Captain Carter was shooting down the Nazis, I assume they did that on purpose and they left it out because it's Disney Plus, but I wasn't 100% sure. I mean, they look pretty similar.
Well, I think that was supposed to be the Hydra logo, because even in the war room when she's there with the general, and they have that little like map table, the little flag she places in Norway represents a Hydra symbol. It's not a Nazi symbol. So I was wondering if maybe they replaced them everywhere.
Yeah.
Because they did mention in this, like, he's the Fuhrer's head scientist, which I believe they also mentioned in the first movie. But in the first movie, there were swastikas on some uniforms, some places.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting when I was watching. I was like, oh, they're absolutely going that route. They're not trying to sugarcoat it.
But I also liked when Red Skull sort of reveals himself, and he's like, the Third Reich will fall and we will rise from the ashes. Like, he doesn't give a shit about the Nazis. They're just a means to an end for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting role to take with the character, because if you just make him a Nazi, like, that's already pretty fucking evil. But if you're more evil than a Nazi, like, that's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. He stands out that much more, I think, with the way they took him in, with the direction they took him in instead. I definitely agree. I thought that was another thing I wanted to bring up to you guys aside from that. Oh, so one last thing here. With the Tesseract, with Carter, she goes through it, obviously. Fast forward to 2012, she's there. We don't find out that Steve is dead, but do you guys think Steve is dead? I mean, that wasn't my question, but they imply that he is, but they never actually said. They said the war was 70 years ago, but she was still alive when he came back in 2011, so what do you guys think?
See, that's another thing, is like, that does open the possibility of him coming back as the new Winter Soldier in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It just maybe, would have happened later in the war. Like, after Peggy's gone, Steve stays enlisted, gets captured. They use the super soldier serum on him, jack him up, and all of a sudden he's the Winter Soldier and Bucky's just gone.
Just gone?
Yeah. Like, or they're both Winter Soldiers, who knows? But
that'd be pretty cool.
If they go back to that character in the current timeline, the fact that they left it open like that does feel very intentional. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it also was very intentional that they were showing them drawing the blood from her and putting all those vials to the side.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's just like, what an asshole. He's just like, oh yeah, maybe we can figure out the secret and make a real super soldier. And she's like, you have one. He's like, women don't belong in the battlefield. He'd probably break a nail. Like, just really laying it on thick with how much women were undervalued back then, which it was absolutely the case. Like, women weren't on the front lines of the military until, like, what, the late 90s? Like, it literally took until, I believe it happened during Bill Clinton's administration.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, when he said that, I wasn't surprised at all. I'm like, oh, what an asshole.
Yeah,
but,
it's the times. But the thing that I loved about this episode, is that it showed in some ways how Peggy would have made a better Captain America right away, because she had more training at that point than Steve did.
100%.
Yeah.
And so I think she took to the shield and everything quicker than Steve did.
I mean, if this
she was already a deadly agent. Like, she shot that one dude dead right in the lab trying to get away. Like, Steve had to chase that guy through the streets, and it was a whole deal. And with her, it's just like, bam, you're done.
Yeah, by the way, Zola and the Tesseract immediately too. The movie would have been over in 20 minutes if this actually happened.
Pretty much. Did you guys notice how the scene when she goes in and saves the Howling Commandos, like, perfectly mirrored a scene from the movie when all 5 of them bust through a door and she's got a pistol in one hand and she's shooting off in the distance? Like, that is exactly like a scene from the movie when Chris Evans does the same thing. It's like the only time you see Chris Evans firing a gun in that movie.
Yeah.
It's it's the same shot, and then I think it goes into a montage like it did in the movie as well.
Yeah, with that old 40s style music while she's kicking ass.
and throws a motorcycle like Steve did in Age of Ultron. Yeah,
right into that little guard tower or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then when she gets the super serum too, that whole scene completely mirrors the one from the movie as well. Like when they show the vials like emptying and whatever. It was the exact same one from the movie if you watch it like side by side.
Yeah, I like how there was even a conversation about how alcohol won't affect her with the serum anymore, just Steve. Like, they did a good job kind of compressing the entire movie down into a 30-minute story, because it covered the whole story, really. It's just we saw it in condensed parts. So, like, instead of Steve's whole USO tour, we get one joke with her in the gym where Steve's like, he could have dressed you up and sent you on a tour. And she's like, he wouldn't. Really? Like, so that cuts 15 minutes down. Like, they did a good job condensing the movie and telling the important parts while also including the new stuff that was necessary to make Captain Carter her own character.
Yeah. And they caught Zola immediately too, and like I said, like you said, Phil, I think she makes for a better Captain America, and in some ways more than others. It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
I thought she did a great job with it. And then the last thing too. So when she goes through the Tesseract, is it a time travel thing, or like obviously no time was missed for her, but like we never found out exactly what happened with Red Skull when he got sucked up by the Tesseract in the first Captain America movie. Obviously, he showed up on Vormir. Did he get transported there? Like, what were your guys' thoughts on that?
I thought she was just trapped somewhere fighting that whatever the tentacle monster is. And then when she came out, she didn't realize any time passed, because wherever she's at, the time didn't pass, which to me is a nod to all of the stuff from the original Spider-Man animated series when they use Captain America and Red Skull and they come out of that portal and they're still the same age.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I went through and rewatched a couple of the Spider-Man cartoons a few years ago. I remember exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was the episode where they used all of the timely characters, like the Wizard and all those characters. I thought that was a great crossover.
Now, is there going to be a Spider-Man-centric episode of this? Do we know?
Yeah, the one where he takes up the mantle of Doctor Strange.
Oh my God, if they don't do some kind of reference to Spider-Verse, it's going to be a massive missed opportunity.
He may be. We don't know how much they're doing that in the next Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. But I mean, just like, because they're both animated, like, even if you just have it be a quick glimpse, like he opens a portal using one of Doctor Strange's things, and you see the animation style of that movie for a split second. Like, they got to do something. Otherwise, it's going to feel like a missed opportunity to me.
Yeah, I think whenever we see Miles in the Marvel universe, I think it's going to be a big deal. So I think they're going to save that for something big.
Mm-hmm.
If they do bring Miles in, and I'm sure they will at some point, I really hope they actually get Donald Glover to be part of the story and like play his character from.
What he already did. He plays his uncle.
That's what I mean. Like, bring him back to actually.
Oh yeah.
Miles' story, because who knows when Miles is going to come in, and who knows what Donald Glover's schedule is going to be like. I mean, he's so back and forth between his music career and his acting career that you never know what he wants to do and when.
Yeah,
but I could also, like, the Spider-Man thing was so kind of like meaningful to him because of that whole fan campaign that broke out, that I think if he had the opportunity to reprise a role in a Spider-Man property, he would do it.
Yeah, I think those are two calls he's not going to turn down. If they call him and ask him to do more Lando stuff, he's not going to turn down that call. If they ask him to do more Spider-Man stuff,
didn't they already announce a show? Like, didn't they already announce a Lando show starring him? I thought that was official.
I thought that
I think
too.
it is official.
If it is, I would love that.
Yeah, I believe that's official. Whether that guy who played Han Solo is going to appear at all is a big question mark, but it would sort of also give them a chance to bring back, like, Kira and maybe even Darth Maul a little bit, like, if they're going to continue telling stories from that time period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I enjoyed Solo. I don't know why people didn't like that movie.
I don't think Solo is a bad movie. I don't think Solo is a good Star Wars movie. It is so drab in comparison to every other Star Wars movie. Like, and not just the tone of the movie, like, the way color looks on the screen is very muted in that movie, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie for what it was. I enjoy.
I actually thought that guy did a good job as Han. Like, I thought that was almost an impossible task. Like, here's one of the most iconic characters, played by one of the most recognizable actors in Hollywood. We want you to play that character as a young man. It's like, ooh, most people would probably turn that down. Yeah,
I thought he did a great job. I mean, of course, I think us having basically the same character in Captain America, well, not Captain America, but Falcon and Winter Soldier, in that movie, I thought the actress was also good in that movie. I enjoyed it. I don't know.
I mean, it's, like I said, it's not a bad movie. I think people overreacted to it, but I also think it focused on some of the wrong things in Han Solo's story. Like, it tried too hard to make him likable. Like, I really think it should have established him more as a criminal than it did. But yeah, I found the thing here. Back on December 10th, they officially ordered Lando to Disney Plus as a series.
I think they announced that with all the other Star Wars and Marvel announcements, right? When they were doing that panel or whatever it was, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. He was the highlight of that movie. Mm-hmm. He was the best casting for that movie.
Absolutely. And Donald Glover, his star at the time was still on the rise. Now he's like such a big deal that them getting him back is a big deal. But man, they have so many shows planned. There's a whole list of them here. It's like there's the Book of Boba Fett, which is like separate from The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Something called Star Wars Visions, which they haven't really talked much about. Andor, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, The Bad Batch, which just ended its first season, Ahsoka's show, something called The Acolyte, Lando, something about droids, and then that Rangers of the New Republic show, which everyone thinks was going to be about Gina Carano's character, but now they got to figure out something else.
Mm-hmm.
We might end up with more Star Wars overload than we do superhero fatigue at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They just launched a new streaming platform. They've got to pump out as much content as they can, especially original content.
Yeah, and I get it. They own these valuable properties. They want to make money off them, but as long as they hire the right creators, which so far they have been. Jon Favreau did a great job with The Mandalorian. Like, that show, him and Dave Filoni knocked it out of the park. I'm sure the same thing is going to be of the Book of Boba Fett and the Ahsoka show, which I'm excited for the Ahsoka show because apparently Sabine Wren is going to be a big part of it. And she's one of the characters from Rebels that I was hoping they would actually bring to live action. Whether they get the girl who voiced her to actually play her in live action is the question. I think they should, but I don't know.
Yeah, they have a lot of shows coming up. I mean, I forgot about the Donald Glover one until you guys mentioned it, but I'm looking forward to that. And just, I don't know, I was thinking earlier about how Star Wars has completely fallen off the face of the earth since the last movie came out 2 years ago. And I didn't even realize when I was looking up shit from this episode of What If for us to talk about, I saw someone do a review of The Bad Batch. I didn't even know that was still airing. I completely forgot about it after you mentioned it a couple of months ago, Chris.
Yeah, it was like 15 or 16 episodes. So the season it went for a few months, like one a week.
It might still be airing now. I might have just finished up today.
Well, it did the other day, actually.
Oh, okay.
I actually watched all of the episodes that I had missed, so I binged up through the end. It got better as it went. The little girl character that they introduced in the first episode is slightly annoying early on, but they sort of toned that down by the time the first season's over.
Mm-hmm. Is it worth watching, you think? Is it worth going out of your way to watch in full or no?
I think it's more satisfying for probably people who actually watched either Clone Wars or Rebels because there's a lot of crossover with those characters.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, any Star Wars fan could jump into it and not having seen the other cartoons, like, still enjoy it because the characters in this were only in one episode of the Clone Wars before this.
Oh, okay.
Like the main characters. So it's telling you a whole new story just set in between episode 2 and 3.
Okay.
So this is, or no, I'm sorry. This is basically taking place right after episode 3 because Order 66 like happens right at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I thought it was around that time period, so I wasn't 100% sure. And like I said, I had just seen people talking about it when it first came out, but that was 3 months ago on May the 4th or whatever, and it's August as we speak right now. So I don't know. I was a little surprised I didn't hear anything else about it, but if I might check it out at some point. We'll see. Probably.
I mean, it's not going to set the world on fire, but like if you're looking for something to watch, it's worth it. But now that Titans is back on and the first 3 episodes were actually pretty good, that might be the new thing to watch.
Required viewing. Yeah, I heard you guys talking about that, or saw you guys talking about that in the DMs the other day. So where does that air?
That's on HBO Max. They released the first 3 episodes, and then I'm assuming it'll be 1 per week for the rest of season 3.
Oh, okay. All right.
Season 1 and 2 are both on there as well. I thought season 1 was okay. Season 2 really fell apart, but season 3 seems to be going well so far. Phil, did you watch all 3 episodes of season 3 yet?
I haven't watched any of season 3 yet.
Oh,
I'm still unoffensive if I want to watch it. Season 2 was really awful in my opinion.
I would say give it a chance. Like, so far, what they're doing with Red Hood is close enough to the comics to where I think people will be happy with it, even though they're changing certain details.
Yeah, I just think it's pretty obvious that it's Jason because
they're not even trying to hide that. Like,
yeah, the screenshots I've seen, the guy in the suit is pretty short, so I was like, that's gotta be Jason. That
was revealed in the trailer. Like, they're not trying to hide in the show even that Red Hood is Jason. They're not making it a mystery. They're basically like, we know you know who this is. We're not going to try and pull the wool over your eyes or anything. So they're basically making it more of a story like, it's more a story about jealousy between Dick and him than it is about him trying to get back at Batman. because obviously this isn't Batman's show, so this is more Red Hood versus Nightwing.
Okay.
But other than that, like I do think if you watch it, you'll enjoy it way more than you did season 2. I would give the first episode a chance, and if you don't like it, then don't stick with it.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, like I said, to watch right now, and I kind of stick with the main stuff, like What If. But I mean, if I hear you guys talking about it, you recommend it, I'll probably give it a shot at some point. There's a lot of stuff out there, but
we got Heels coming out soon.
Yeah, Heels is out soon. Yeah, with their boy Phil Brooks.
I might have to get Stars or do a free trial or whatever, because I don't think I have Stars right now.
I may have a early screener to the show. I may. So I will let you know if you guys are interested in watching it. I haven't clicked on it yet, but I may have gotten an email about that. But maybe we'll talk about that too if it's a good enough show. But this is What If, episode 1. We got a lot of more episodes to go that I'm looking forward to watching and for us to be breaking down going forward. Chris, you're on the Twitter machine at BR_Doctor. Phil, you're on Twitter at PhilDL616. Phil, Chris, this has been great, guys. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks.